This is TWiT.
How are you doing?
All right, how are you?
Awesome. It's great to get you on here. There's so much ground to cover, and we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, I know Jeff's got thoughts on this. Absolutely. So this is your chance. So we saw Jack Dorsey and Sheryl Sandberg sit in the hot seat during this congressional hearing. What would you say has been the tone of the questions that were thrown at them, and how do you think they did in responding?
I was surprised because I was very nervous, given prior hearings were all about seeing just how stupid our legislators are about the internet and how hostile they were. I think that it was a very different tone, except, of course, to Google, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think that the legislators were giving credit to Facebook and Twitter for trying, for moving ahead. They probably want to take credit for that. You know, we put you on the hot seat and you responded. Fine, whatever. I think there was a bit more of a sense of pulling the oars in the same way. I saw most of the testimony. There was a chunk in the middle I missed. So there could have been some horrible moment that I missed. But all in all, I thought that the questions were respectful. And in terms of Sandberg and Dorsey, I think they both did very well. The only thing I wish they'd done was to remind people that the internet is not a flaming cesspool of crap, that most of the internet is wonderful. Good things happen. Social media enables Black Lives Matter and Me Too to occur. But that's my wishful thinking. I think what they did in all was accomplish the goal of saying, we're trying. We care about this too. We want to work together. The fact that Congress came back and said, if there are things that are stopping you from working together, let us know. So I was quite pleasantly surprised.
What did you think about Google's retort when it sent in an empty chair to speak on its behalf? What did you think about that? Was this a smart decision on Google's part? Yesterday on Twig, Stacy seemed to think that it really didn't matter much, that whether Google sent someone or not, that they were making a statement that ultimately it wasn't going to matter as much. I'm definitely paraphrasing, but what's your thought?
Yeah, I think Stacy, as usual, is right. I was thinking about this yesterday. Will it matter in a month that Google wasn't there? No. Will people say, oh, my God, Google didn't go before this hearing? No, I don't think so, though. And so going into it, I thought, yeah, Google may win this test because what the heck? They're going to get skewered. They're going to have idiotic questions. Nothing's going to be accomplished. Google's smart not to be there. That was my impression going in. But given that the hearings turned out better than I thought, I think Google missed an opportunity to be there. And further, because Google was not there, it was an opportunity for various senators. One in particular went after them for, maybe being nice to China, for not continuing the drone projects with the U.S. government. And so Google got smashed a little bit and didn't have an opportunity to respond. So in the end, I was wrong. I think that Google would have been wiser to be there, but I certainly understand why Google chose not to be.
I was surprised that Kamala Harris was there, and she was kind of busy yesterday. She's been busy in the last few days. I mean, that she was there to question Sandberg and ask, like, how much. She asked her, how much money have you made? How much money has Facebook made off of these Russian ads? I mean, what did you make of her questions and her being there and also at the Supreme Court hearings?
Yeah, but she is our prosecutor extraordinaire, and I don't want to face her, man. I don't want to do anything wrong and see Kamala Harris staring at me. I've met her; she's a very nice person, but boy, if I've done anything wrong, keep me safe, because she is tough. But I think I didn't get to watch all of that. I got interrupted by a phone call in the middle of it. I think it's a bit of a bogus idea to say that the platforms want this manipulation and trolling because they make money off of it. It's bad for their brands. It's bad for their businesses. They're getting hauled forward before people because of just that stuff. So I think it's naive, purposefully naive, to say that they're making money. This also goes back to when Al Franken pushed them in earlier hearings and rubles. You should have seen the rubles. Which, when you realize the scale of this, is absolutely absurd. I was struck again yesterday by the sheer scale of this. I tweeted it. I don't have the number in front of me, but Jack Dorsey said that I think that they were killing something like 7 million fake accounts a week. Sheryl Sandberg said, and this goes beyond what they said at F8. At F8, Zuckerberg said they were killing 1 million accounts a day. And she said yesterday they're killing millions of accounts a day. When you're dealing at that scale, rubles are not going to pop up before your attention. And this isn't about them making money. That's a cynical question in the end, because they don't want this on their back. And you know what they really want, I think, is cover to be able to take things down. Right before we came on the air, Twitter did announce that they're taking down Alex Jones.
Yep.
That's been a very difficult thing for them to come to. The other platforms did. What they all needed was company. They needed each other to say, you first, no, you first. And they're doing it. And there's still some controversy about it. Of course, Lord knows there will be. But in the end, I think that though I was one who was rather dogmatic about openness and more speech is good speech and so on and so forth, I've come to see that was naive. These bad guys are manipulating the platforms. They're using them. And the platforms are not getting anything positive out of this. They're getting nothing but headaches. And importantly, huge expense. You know, Sandberg also said yesterday, it wasn't future tense anymore. She said present tense, that they have 20,000 people working on this. And I've used this bad analogy before, and it is a bad analogy. But there are 20,000 people at Facebook now assigned and paid to hunt down and get rid of crap detectors. Meanwhile, in the United States, we have, and it's an apples to kumquats comparison, we have about 30,000 journalists on daily newspapers. And so what does that say about our allocation of resources that we have to these two worlds, to quality news, to playing whack-a-mole with crap? And what it also says is that the investment in dealing with the crap in human labor and in algorithm writing and in getting data sets is huge. And full disclosure, I should mention here, because it's a different show from usual, is that I raised money from Facebook, Craig Newmark, Ford Foundation, and others to start the News Integrity Initiative at CUNY. I am independent of them, and I personally receive no money from any platform. End of disclosure.
So Peter Kafka yesterday, he tweeted a picture of empty seats during the House hearing. Did the reps have better things to do? Is that what it usually looks like in there? It was pretty empty.
Yeah, it is. It's what happens. They have other things to go do, and it's all for the camera. So I don't think it's a huge deal. Did you also see, by the way, Jack's tweet about his pulse?
Yes.
I should have sent it into you earlier. I don't have it ready, but it was very funny that he started off by saying that he was shy. I love that the head of Twitter says, I'm a man of few words. Of course you are.
Yeah.
And a few more now, but still a few. But he, he's not used to doing this. He's not that kind of public figure. And I think that he comported himself well. And Sheryl Sandberg is often accused of being too scripted and too this. I think she too came off very well. I think she came off as quite sincere.
All right. So along with this, man, the last couple of days have just been nutso. There was news that Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and of course we heard about, President Donald Trump saying that Google is actively censoring conservative voices. Jeff Sessions then says, there was news that he had been meeting with state attorneys general on this topic of platform censorship. Does it seem like there's a march that's pretty hard to steer away from right now towards regulation of these platforms? I mean, so many things are happening all at once, right? We've got election interference. We've got charges of censorship. All these things concurrently happening. Is regulation just almost a given at this point? What do you think?
Lord, I hope not. And at moments like this, I sound like a libertarian. I enrage some TWiT fans because I'm a proven liberal. I'm not against government, but I am against government involvement in speech. I think that it would be a big mistake, number one. And the internet is speech, period. That's what it is. Two, I think we've seen in Europe that the regulation that's occurred there, though well-intentioned, has huge unintended consequences. GDPR, the privacy regulation, means that a couple thousand U.S. publishers have now cut off Europe. The right to be forgotten gives more power to Google to decide what should and should not be remembered, which I think is a frightening idea. The Netzdige hate speech law in Germany, besides hiring thousands of people to Facebook, means that satire is all but dead because it gives companies 24 hours to get stuff off. So they're going to play safe and take anything that's edgy off. Those are problems. Those are big problems. And I don't want to see that occur. And I do think that we've got to recognize that we are on the same side. Let me give a caveat to that in a second. And I'll say something controversial, so I already apologize to your email accounts. But we have to see here now that Twitter particularly, Facebook particularly, also Twitter and also Google are our best allies and our best defense against Russian election interference. Our own government in the United States is not a good defense, right? We have major officials starting at the very top saying, Russia, what Russia? Nothing's happening here. And so we've got to recognize, number one, that they are trying to defend us now that they know about it. Number two, when you have Donald Trump going after Google the same way he has in the past declared the press to be the enemy of the people, he's going after sources of information. He's going after sources of truth and reporting. And so that he has the only truth. Or as Rudy Giuliani says, truth isn't true. So, we're in that kind of boat where media and the platforms, which are not the same, I would argue, are on the same side. They're on the same side of fighting manipulation and interference. They're on the same side of trying to inform the public and give people access to information. They're on the same side when it comes to being attacked by authoritarians in this country and elsewhere. So the media, what disturbs me so often is that media has become dystopian and moral panicky about the platforms and is taking pride in smashing them at every turn. Well, folks, they're not the enemy.
I need to go back to what you said about the internet being speech. The internet is speech. Now, you didn't say, free speech is so complicated. Every time I feel like I say, something about free speech, people say, you don't understand free speech. Free speech is not free. And what do you mean by the internet is speech?
So, watch out. I'm going to go on for an hour.
I know I was in trouble asking this question, but I really need to know.
No, so this is a post that I haven't written yet that I want to write.
Please do.
Which is that, after you hear it, you may disagree. Okay. I think that we in media make a mistake, and people in government make a mistake of seeing the internet as content. That's viewing the future in the analog of the past. That's Gutenberg terms. Drinking game. Whenever I say Gutenberg, you can take a swig. And that sees the world as containers of something called content. That's not what the internet is. The internet is Times Square, not the New York Times. The internet is a place where people come together to connect with each other and with information and to take action and to do things and to buy things. And pardon me, my lights go out because it thinks that I'm dead. Technology. And so just in the middle of my spiel, the lights are editors. I think that to presume that the internet is content also brings other assumptions with that, which including, well, it ought to be edited. Well, it ought to be packaged. It ought to be censored. It ought to be approved. It ought to be perfect. None of that is true. It's just people talking. The fact that anyone who's connected can talk to anyone who's connected. We got a lot more people to connect, but we're headed there. That's very different from saying that a small elite has access to the press and access to create a product we call content that they can publish, I don't know, in like a book. That's a very different beast. So I think that we keep on saying that the internet is media. It's not. That the internet is content. It's not. The internet is people talking. And we wouldn't go around Times Square. We wouldn't go to the neighborhood Denny's. And when somebody says something stupid in the next booth, say, stop saying that. You shouldn't say that. That's wrong. I'm going to correct you. Right? We just know people talk. They do what they do. And we've got to see the internet in that context. And we've got to appreciate it for that we can now hear voices that couldn't be heard before. Without the internet, we wouldn't have had, as I said, Me Too or the Parkland students' victories. We also wouldn't, as a white person, I wouldn't be as aware as I am now of the problems of white people calling the cops on black people who are just living their lives while black. It's been going on, God Lord knows, for as long as since we've had a telephone. But I wasn't aware of it as much as I should have been because it wasn't documented by media. It wasn't a story in media. It wasn't content. Instead, now we have a medium that enables people to talk. Now, having said that, why do I also celebrate taking down Alex Jones? Because there are standards in society, and society is negotiating those standards. And society has told Twitter and Facebook and company that Alex Jones, we don't know where the line is, but whatever that line is, he's on the other side of it. And the platforms would like us to have rules that they can put into algorithms, but unfortunately it's not as clean as that. And it means that we as society are doing this anecdotally. And we've said Alex Jones is unacceptable in a civilized world. Get him out of there. At the same time, I'm arguing it's speech, and I want as much speech as possible. Those are conflicting, and we're trying to figure out where those lines are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before your lights go out again, write the internet is speech, write the post, write the book. Just you have to write the book very fast.
I am working on that. Okay. Gutenberg.
or you can write that in a dark office. Just make sure your keyboard's backlit.
Yeah.
That's all.
I have a wonderful Chromebook, so it's okay.
All right, fantastic. Jeff Jarvis, it's always great getting the chance to talk to you, and I'm happy we got your insight on this buzzmachine.com. Absolutely, we'll do it again soon. Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you next week on TWiT.